The series begins with impactful aerial views of a heavily guarded prison cell, revealing Dwight, the man who has made this dreary place his home for over 25 years. But today, the air is filled with anticipation. It is the day Dwight has awaited for a long 25 years, the day of his release. As he crosses the prison gates, he is confronted with an outside world that has changed drastically, leaving him feeling lost and out of place. Nevertheless, Dwight's thoughts are focused on one thing. His old associates will welcome him back as he deserves. After all, his unwavering loyalty during his imprisonment was key to maintaining the crime empire they built together. However, the reunion turns out to be disappointing, as Dwight faces an environment that feels more like a forced retirement than a heroic return. Chi, the son of his former partner, is now in charge, surrounded by his arrogant cousin Vince, who looks down on the experience of the older generation. Dwight excels in skills and experience in ways that Vince cannot even imagine. The lack of appreciation from his supposed allies is glaring. Dwight had expected a warm welcome, especially since he sacrificed 25 years of his life in a small cell for them. But reality hits hard. His friends deny him access to Tulsa, an unknown place that feels more like a death sentence than an opportunity. This unknown fate represents a new kind of prison, one that Dwight has no intention of knowing. The final blow comes when Pete, whom Dwight considered one of his closest friends, betrays him. The harsh truth becomes clear. There is no place for him in the city he once deemed his own. Now he faces a painful choice, Tulsa or emptiness. With anguish in his voice, Dwight reminds his old friend of the brotherhood they once shared, revealing his sacrifices as he recounts how he lost his wife during his incarceration and how his 18-year-old daughter rejects him, all because he took the blame for a crime he didn't commit, saving the crime empire from which he was ruthlessly cast out. Vince, unable to hold his tongue, becomes the perfect target for Dwight's old fists, where a single thunderous blow proves that his skills are still intact, leaving Vince sprawled on the ground. Realizing his time there has come to an end, Dwight accepts a tempting offer of $5,000 a week from Pitt to travel to Tulsa and build a new crime empire. The promise of a percentage for his old partners seals the deal, marking the beginning of a new era. After a grueling journey of over 1,000 kilometers, Dwight arrives in Tulsa, where his face scrunches in disbelief as he realizes it is not the city he expected. As he surveys his surroundings, he faces a desolate scene of a town that appears abandoned, where people seem to carry the Bible as an extension of themselves. Tyson, the only rational being within Dwight's sight, becomes his taxi and personal guide in this strange city, promising Dwight an adventure full of surprises. So many things are new now. Marijuana has become legal, and it doesn't take a drug lord to inform them of the police's presence. The streets once ruled by gangs and thieves now house a lone cannabis shop amidst the desert, sparking an irresistible curiosity in Dwight. Upon entering the shop, he is greeted by Clint, who offers an endless catalog of cannabis products, from candies to oils, everything infused with this magical plant. And most astonishingly, there are no police in sight. Dwight notes the intriguing details, as the shop operates exclusively in cash, lacks security cameras, and its only protection is a portly guard who can barely stop him. The shop owner, Body, is far from violent, simply asking Dwight not to hurt anyone else, to take what he wants and go. But Dwight is not an ordinary thief. With a mysterious smile, he surprises everyone by asking to see Body's financial records, revealing a more complex plan than just a simple robbery. As expected, the place is a goldmine, with Body holding $500,000 in a safe. Dwight sees a unique opportunity and proposes an unexpected deal for 20% of the profits, promising to protect Body from gangs and the law, formalizing an agreement that could change the course of both their lives forever. Although this excuse is somewhat outdated, as Body runs a completely legal business and there are no gangs in Tulsa, Dwight is an old wolf who doesn't want to oppose him. With no choice, Body agrees to a partnership with Dwight, who promises to elevate his business to unprecedented heights. Once he leaves the shop, Dwight gives $30,000 of the $100,000 he just received from Body to Tyson to buy him a new truck and be his driver at a salary of $2,000 a week, leaving Dwight at a hotel. He bids Tyson farewell, promising to return at dawn. During his first night in the city, Dwight needs nothing more than a drink, so he heads to a cowboy bar to quench his thirst. Upon entering, he meets Mitch, the bar owner. Although Mitch usually looks at strangers with suspicion, the large stack of cash Dwight is carrying instantly changes his mind. The next morning, Tyson keeps his promise to wear a shirt, but he doesn't come with the new truck. It turns out the seller was inherently racist and was kicked out of the store. Minutes later, Dwight walks straight into the car dealership and heads directly to the manager's office. Face to face with the manager, Dwight reveals the cruel irony. Tyson, the perfect young man, is treated like a criminal because of his skin color, while Dwight, dressed in a $1,000 Italian suit, should be the one inciting fear. After letting the manager taste his punch, the two of them leave the dealership with a new Navigator truck and a great discount. Later, while Dwight enjoys a scoop of ice cream, he notices someone following him. Inside the store, Buddy is not very happy to see Dwight, but after a while he realizes that Dwight might be useful. He has a lot of cash, and Dwight knows how to launder it. When night falls, Dwight returns to Mitch's bar with an interesting proposal for him. However, the proposal is momentarily interrupted when he meets Stacy, who is drawn to his mysterious personality, and they spend the night together. Not far from there, the person who was following Dwight reports to his partners about the presence of the Italian Mafia in the city, adding an exciting twist to the story. It turns out that Stacy is an agent with the ATF, also known as the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and their meeting at the bar was merely a coincidence. The next morning, Dwight tries to send the money owed to Chi through the mail, but he cannot pay for shipping due to the lack of a credit card or phone in this digital age, where cash is considered outdated and no longer used for mail. For now, he manages to solve his problem with a $100 bill from a stranger to use their card, but he can't keep distributing bills every time he wants to make a deal. Stacy, unable to believe she spent the night with a criminal, asks her friend to send Dwight's file just to ensure he's not continuing his criminal activities. She is coming out of a messy divorce, and it wouldn't be good for her resume if people knew she'd been involved with a high-level ex-con like Dwight. In New York, Chi receives the package from Dwight and is satisfied with his work, although Vince has a broken jaw in 3 places and only wants to take revenge on the old Dwight. For now, Dwight tests his patience with bank employees who couldn't be more helpless in resolving his need for a credit card. We leave Dwight for a moment to meet Armand, the person who has been tailing our hero in the city. He has a mediocre business, but he has an unfinished account with Dwight and has been forced to take a driving test to obtain a new license, all so he can get a credit card that allows him to navigate the city. However, he can finally get a credit card, which is crucial in the new world he's trying to adapt to. In that era, Chi calls Dwight about Vince's jaw problem, even though Vince doesn't like this young man. He is the head of the family. Vince wants $1,000 as compensation for what happened, trying to maintain a sincere relationship. Stacy appears in Dwight's room to inform him that she is an ATF agent, showing him some honesty and telling him not to worry. He's just an old criminal trying to live in peace, which means they won't see each other again. Thus, their relationship ends in style. Mark, Tyson's father, is unhappy with his son's association with an ex-con, knowing that the easy money he brings home always comes with problems. Dwight shines with ambitious eyes and decides to take the next step, finding out body suppliers. He is convinced that he can negotiate a more profitable deal. Dwight meets face-to-face with a grim-faced man, the atmosphere charged with tension. 2 powerful men with no ounce of fear are about to unleash a storm. Just when it seems things are about to explode, Jimmy enters like a ray of calm, helping to soothe the atmosphere. Everyone sits down to discuss business, and here Dwight showcases his negotiation charm, lowering the price from $100 to $750, leaving everyone in shock, which is worth celebrating. Dwight tries marijuana for the first time in his life, an experience he won't forget for a long time. The next morning, the credit card finally arrives, and the first thing Dwight does with it is search for information about his daughter online. With the phone number in hand, it's easy to type it into his phone, but making the call proves very difficult. Their relationship has not been the best, but Dwight wants to be part of his daughter's life. In the next scene, we are introduced to Hendrix, Stacy's colleague, who is in the middle of a situation with a crazy person shooting indiscriminately from his home. After a minute, Waltrip arrives and Hendricks asks him to stop this. Surprisingly, it seems Waltrip has influence over the attacker, but his indifference to the situation leaves everyone confused. After a few seconds, half a dozen dogs come out of the house, which is now a complete wreck, leaving Stacy with chaos and a dead suspect. From the chaos, we transition to calm, where Dwight is having coffee when a horse suddenly appears in the middle of the city, capturing his attention. Tyson arrives to pick up Dwight, and with an ambitious voice, he presents him with the possibility of a promotion, revealing his aspirations to leave the life of a driver behind and reach the luxurious lifestyle that Dwight enjoys, promising that they will talk later. The duo heads to Body's shop where they find a huge party with money everywhere. Body explains that he holds this kind of party every month, a great way to make money, as he only needs to provide free food to rake in thousands of dollars in just a few hours. However, what truly catches Dwight's attention is the nitrous oxide vendors, who offer balloons filled with nitrous oxide for $10 each, a business opportunity not to be missed. With a quick calculation, Dwight realizes that each tank produces 350 balloons at $10 each, meaning he could earn $3,500 from each tank during the upcoming music festival. Here, our hero changes the proposal he was planning to present to Mitch, who has a bar and restaurant, meaning he holds a license to buy gas wholesale. Dwight's partner count is increasing, but the looming threat of Armand still watches. In that era, during his driving test, Dwight becomes the target of an attack. Armand, whom we recognize, shoots from his car, leading to chaos. The instructor is injured, but Dwight miraculously emerges unscathed, filled with a thirst for revenge. Unfortunately, Armand manages to escape, but Dwight remembers some numbers from his license plate. At the station, he tells the truth to the officers, but they find it unbelievable. In a comedic turn, Dwight pretends to be a victim and threatens to sue the driving instructor, insisting that he failed a test he shouldn't have failed and nearly got them killed. As this unfolds, Armand disposes of the car, clearly having failed in his mission, and now Dwight will begin his pursuit of him. Although Stacy promised to stay away, she couldn't keep her word and ends up pulling Dwight out of the police station, leading them to have dinner together. There, Dwight discovers that Stacy is a decorated agent with many medals, but one mistake cost her the job in Tulsa, the only option offered to her. Otherwise, she would be fired. The dinner ended with something more, and as always, both promised that this would be the end of their encounters. But we all know it won't be. As soon as Stacy leaves, Dwight begins his pursuit of the attacker. The first thing he does is call Chi, suspecting that Vince is behind all this, and if so, he wants his head on a platter. After the explosion, Stacy becomes obsessed with Waltrip, who is the leader of a group of extremists that suddenly became armed to the teeth, which can't be a good sign. After getting nowhere with Chi, Dwight visits the instructor in the hospital, convincing him to find the rest of the license plate with a little bribe of $10,000. However, with the weight of conscience on him, Dwight tries to pull Tyson out of the game by handing him a similar envelope. Yet the young man, enchanted by adrenaline and easy money, refuses to back down. Determined, they take the bullet-riddled truck to the dealership and skillfully exchange it for a new one under the pretext of manufacturing defects. At that time, the $10,000 he gave to the instructor pay off, as the abandoned car is found on the outskirts of the city. There, Dwight discovers a piece of cloth bearing the letters RF, which turns out to be the abbreviation for a nearby farm where Armand works. However, Dwight knows Margaret, the owner of the farm, who refuses to help him. She has many employees and no time to assist a stranger with a piece of cloth. But Dwight doesn't give up easily. He waits outside the farm until a car pulls out and then follows it to identify Armand. After waiting until he is alone at 2:30, he makes his move and ambushes Armand in his kitchen. Dwight points his gun at Armand's head, who admits that he tried to kill him, but only did so because he thought Dwight had come from New York to kill him. Armand was part of the larger Mafia, but fled when Dwight was arrested and moved to the edge of the world, Tulsa, where he started a new life. However, when he saw Dwight, he thought that Pete had sent him to kill him. Just before Dwight pulls the trigger, Armand confesses that Pitt sent someone to kill him in prison, unsure whether Dwight would keep quiet, leading him to decide to betray him. Armand tells Dwight other things and Dwight decides to spare his life, but now he will work for him. Later that same day, Mitch calls Dwight to show him 10 tanks of nitrous oxide ready to be turned into over $1,000 in profit. The business expands and things are looking up. Once the festival begins, Tyson and Body take center stage and start selling the gas. However, soon they run into competitors who aren't happy to see them there on their first day selling. Tyson manages to sell all 10 tanks in one night, rewarding Dwight with a small bonus for his efforts. At Waltrip's bar, there's discussion about what Body and his new partner are doing. The gas business doesn't belong to them, and they aren't planning to let anyone steal their livelihood. With the money Dwight gave him, Tyson bought several pieces of gold, which annoys his father, who doesn't believe Dwight is running a legitimate business and doesn't want his son associating with someone like him. The following night, Tyson and Body are attacked by members of Waltrip's gang who steal their money and tanks. Mark is not at all happy to see his son beaten, but Tyson is tired of being treated like a child. After settling with his father for what he is supposed to spend on food, he leaves home. At the bar, the team reorganizes to retaliate against Waltrip's men. When Mark shows up, he wants to take his son away from Dwight. When he learns that they are going to get revenge on the men who assaulted Tyson, he joins the group. First, they let the men sell all the gas, so they only need to worry about the money, and then they enter the fray. After the battle, Dwight receives a video call from his sister. Unfortunately, the moment is not a happy one, as the hero must say goodbye to his brother for the last time through the screen. The next day, Dwight wakes up early to attend his brother's funeral, so he must return to New York, not knowing how his family will receive him. However, he decides to take the risk, and upon arrival, the first person he sees is his sister Joan. When the time comes to speak with his daughter Christina, she is stunned to see Dwight. 15 years of separation weigh heavily in the air, an impossible gap to close in just one visit. Swallowing his pride, Dwight asks Joan about Christina's life and happiness. Meanwhile, things are getting complicated in Tulsa. Waltrip, determined to end Dwight, places his corrupt officers on his tail. With the license plate number in hand, they give him an ultimatum. Behind bars or 6 feet under, Dwight's fate is sealed. Luck does not smile upon Dwight's friends. Tyson, behind the wheel, is the first to fall. An illegal search reveals marijuana in the glove compartment, leading to his imprisonment, while Dwight tries to reconnect with his family, who are showered with money, but Christina and her husband Amaury can't wait to leave the place. Reconciliation fades as Christina and Amaury flee, rejecting Dwight and his tainted money. The wounds of the past remain open and continue to bleed. In the hospital, Chi asks Dwight to come. Pete is also in critical condition, but it's clear that a confrontation is imminent when Vincent arrives, the man who made him eat soup for an entire month. The story complicates as corrupt officers use Tyson's phone to locate Body. Now they are in their grip, kidnapped and at the mercy of their captors. That night, the officers take Body to Mitch's bar, who isn't stupid and kicks them out. It turns out the bar is located on Cherokee land, where they have no authority, and if Mitch wants to, he can draw his weapon and send them to hell. So they end up freeing Body without realizing it. Back to Dwight, he has made progress with his daughter, but she still doesn't allow him to meet his grandchildren. The conversation takes a horrific turn when Dwight discovers the brutal truth. One of Chi's men assaulted his daughter during his absence. Filled with rage, Dwight heads to the hospital, passionate about revenge. When he arrives, he talks briefly with Pete, and with eyes and strength that are unstoppable, Dwight asks his best friend if he knows what Nico did to his daughter. Pete swears he didn't know, and that is the only thing saving him from Dwight's wrath. But for Nico, it's time to face the father of the girl who was assaulted in front of Chi. Vincent and all his men witness Dwight kill Nico in a merciless rage, leaving his body on the ground, refusing to comply with Chi's orders, sending them all to hell. In Tulsa, Stacy and Hendricks meet Roxy, an undercover agent in Waltrip's gang. Roxy informs them about the conflict between Waltrip and Dwight. When Stacy hears this, she tries to change the subject, but Hendricks reminds her that Dwight is a high-level ex-con, which could lead to something significant. Goody tries to defend Dwight, pointing out that if Nico assaulted his daughter, he deserved what happened to him. However, Chi has no intention of letting the matter go unpunished. Vincent suggests killing Dwight, but Pitt gets angry, affirming that Dwight kept his word and what he did was justifiable revenge, so the matter won't be discussed further. Before returning to Tulsa, Dwight visits his daughter to tell her that Nico is no longer a problem. He tells her that she doesn't need to understand or forgive him. He is who he is and is not looking for absolution. Nico did something to you that left a lifelong mark, and I took his life. Period. Although Christina disapproves of his actions, Dwight defends his connection to her and tells her how much he loves her. Now he will leave, but he promises to protect her, even though she doesn't want him in her life. Upon returning to Tulsa, Tyson updates Dwight on all the troubles that occurred during his absence. That night, Dwight calls Woody to warn him that Chi might be planning to attack Christina in some way. Woody has always been loyal, and Dwight is confident he can count on him to avoid war. The next morning, Stacy requests a meeting with Dwight to inform him that the FBI is in town investigating. They've intercepted his phone and know certain information. At the same time, the FBI conducts a raid on Body's business, eager to open their safe and seize the cash. As things unfold, Dwight devises a direct plan to resolve his issues with Waltrip, setting up a brief meeting with him. Dwight makes it clear that he has no intention of doing business with him or respecting his claimed territory. The world belongs to those who have the guts to take it, and if Waltrip wants war, he will have it. That night at the bar, Body appears very tense due to the FBI visit, informing Dwight that they took all his money from the safe. But Dwight surprises him by keeping his promise. He saved Body's money and rebuilt his store. He is a man of his word and Body is his partner. The next day, while sipping his coffee at his usual spot, Dwight learns from Spencer that the beautiful horse wandering around town is set to be slaughtered. He decides to do something about it. They head to Potrero together and buy the horse just moments before its execution, leaving it in Spencer's care, who unexpectedly becomes his employee, fearing a return to prison. Stacy offers Dwight the chance to work with her to take down Waltrip. However, our hero feels insulted. He has never been an informant, and he won't start now. In New York, Chi attacks Amori, causing her harm, which affects Christina. Meanwhile, something is also happening in Tulsa. One of Waltrip's men attacks the bar with a shotgun. After dealing with him, Mitch agrees to partner with Dwight for 50% of the bar. Soon, they find themselves in a trench digging a grave for the man who may not be the last. At dawn, Dwight receives a call from Christina and learns what happened to Amori. She has a bruise, several broken ribs, and a shattered hand due to a high heel. It must have been Italian. Meanwhile, Waltrip is losing his patience. The man he sent to kill Dwight is missing, and they receive a blood-stained jacket, a clear message of war. Roxy calls Stacy to tell her that they killed her friend. He went out last night on a mission for Waltrip and hasn't returned. When Woody arrives in Tulsa, he asks Dwight if he knows anything about what happened to Amori, but he assures him he doesn't know anything. In a remote warehouse, Stacy convinces Roxy to make one last attempt for justice for her friend, wanting her to steal Waltrip's computer, which holds records of everything he does in New York. Christina receives a call where she hears only someone breathing, enough to put her on edge. Back in Tulsa, Roxy checks Waltrip's office, but just as she grabs his computer, he comes from behind and strangles her with a cord. Stacy, who has been waiting for a long time, calls her phone, but Waltrip answers to tell her that Roxy has no reception where she is. With the office being rebuilt, Body returns to work, and now that he can trust Dwight, he shows him something very intriguing. It turns out that Body is a professional cryptocurrency thief and has nearly $8 million that he needs to launder. Dwight has the perfect plan to execute this, as they intend to create a casino in Mitch's bar and obtain a license from the Native Americans working for Jimmy. Through this, they will be able to launder all the money they want, and everyone will become rich. Meanwhile, Pitt continues to mistreat Chi, who is tired of being his father's servant. Fed up with waiting for his father to die so he can inherit the throne, Chi decides to expedite the process and assassinate his father himself to become the leader that the Mafia needs. News travels fast to Tulsa. Pete is dead, and now Chi is the head of the crime family, continuing with his operations. The team pitches their idea to Jimmy, who is also drowning in money, but, like the rest of the group, needs a way to launder it. Dwight knows that Chi will visit him soon, so he asked Jimmy for a number of Malakara-type men, tough guys experienced in gunplay. He needs to be ready for what's to come, which is something that will happen soon, as Chi has already arranged for Dwight's assassination and is gathering men to replace him in Tulsa to run the operations. After his fallout with his father, Tyson finds a place of his own. He is tired of his father deceiving him daily. For Waltrip, things are becoming complicated as the ATF has raided his bar and seized his computer. They now know that he possesses millions of dollars in illicit funds, and the entire agency is looking for him. Back to Dwight, the same corrupt officers try to arrest him in the same way they did Tyson, but Dwight is no novice. Ignoring their orders, he gets out of the car and threatens to kill the officers. His anger is so intense that the officers are grateful that their pants are brown to hide the fact that they might have just wet themselves in fear. That evening, Chi calls Dwight to put their battles behind them and reconcile, but it turns out to be a trap to lure him into the city so they can kill him. That night, Stacy goes to Dwight to inform him that all members of Waltrip's gang have been arrested and that they will be coming for him soon as well. If Dwight wants to get out of this, he must leave the city immediately, although it may already be too late. After a shootout, Stacy is shot, and Dwight is arrested to give a statement while he watches Waltrip escape. Fortunately, Stacy comes out of surgery and will recover. Dwight promises her that he will find Waltrip and make him pay. However, Stacy has more pressing concerns, as she may lose her job when they discover that she was in a relationship with a criminal and shared confidential information with him. Meanwhile, Waltrip is gathering his men to escalate the war against Dwight. Dwight discovers that Chi has arrived in the city and is waiting for him on the hotel rooftop. He warns Armand that something feels off. He has never seen Chi like this before and suspects he is planning something. Heeding Armand's advice, Dwight attends the meeting. As soon as he sees Chi, he sets the record straight. They send him to Tulsa to live in hell, but he has turned the wasteland into the promised land and has no intention of giving them a slice of it. Dwight makes it clear that Chi and Vincent can go to hell, but he gives Goody 3 seconds to decide which side he stands on. Wisely, Goody chooses Dwight, angering his friend Chi, who vows to kill Dwight for betraying his family. However, at that moment, he is completely cornered and unable to do anything. In clear and simple terms, Dwight tells Chi to go back from where he came. Tulsa is his, and if they want to take his business, they'll have to pry it from his cold hands. In the business context, Body, as a master thief, manages to infiltrate the ATF's network while experts are reviewing Waltrip's computer. He successfully steals all of Waltrip's money in seconds. When Waltrip sees his balance at zero, he realizes he is utterly destroyed. In the hospital, Stacy receives a message from Dwight containing a USB drive with a digital wallet loaded with $1 million, a farewell gift for the time they spent together and for saving his life in the bar. Meanwhile, everyone in the bar is celebrating the theft of nearly $9 million from Waltrip when they hear the sound of motorcycles approaching. The war cries are clear as Waltrip and his armed men storm the bar, finding Dwight and his crew ready for battle. When Dwight sees that Tyson has been injured, he charges at Waltrip, delivering a powerful blow that leaves him slumped against the wall like a trophy. He then proceeds to execute him. When the gunfire stops, Armand is dead and Tyson is shot in the arm, but no one else is harmed. 3 months later, Christina is in Tulsa. She has decided to give Dwight a chance to meet his grandchildren, and their relationship has notably improved. It is one of the few happy moments they will have before the war against his former family begins. The first season ends with Stacy testifying against Dwight for attempted bribery using the USB drive, all to save her job and return to the police force. Thus, the first season of the series concludes.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.